Welcome to Event Icons, where you get to chat with the icons of the event industry. My name is Alex Plaxton. I am one of your co-hosts, and today Tahira is joining us as our other co-host, and we're very excited because today we're talking about the state of our industry with some special guests from PCMA. And for those who don't know what PCMA is the Professional Convention Management Association, and they have been moving forward globally, educating, inspiring, connecting, and innovating the business meetings and events community. And today, we are very lucky to have their leaders on the show to talk with us about what they're seeing happening out there, and also tell us what's going on with the organization. The organization has solid roots in North America, but has also moved deep into Asia and Europe and beyond to grow in depth, diversity, and meaning as they create more culture-aware meetings and events, more consistent business-focused results wherever you plan meetings and events. So we're very excited to have them.
We're happy to be here.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of #EventIcons.
Presented by Endless Events.
The show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. Use the question panel on the webinar to submit your questions. Or you can hop on Twitter. Submit your questions with #EventIcons.
We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show.
Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share #EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook.
Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com.
Now, without any further delay, this is #EventIcons.
So let's get to it. Tahira, would you like to introduce our guests?
Yeah, so Sherrif Karamat, first year as CEO of PCMA after several years as their COO. So Sherrif has taken on the challenge of continued transformation for the organization. And I'm gonna say it, Sherrif. I'm going to say, so often at IMEX, where we'll all be next week, the only time that I see Sherrif, because everyone's very busy at IMEX, is in the Palazzo gym. So I can tell you, under that sweater, that man has arms. So then we also have Claire Smith. Claire is the chair of PCMA. She's the first supplier and non-US based person to hold this position. So I've known Claire for a long time. I know that she is a passionate venue executive, an amazing curious trend curator, a world traveler. For all of those who may follow her on Facebook, you will also know that. A proud Vancouverite, and a dog lover extraordinaire. So we're so happy to have you both with us today. We are going to let people know that they can join in the conversation via the chat on event-icons.com or in the Event Icons Facebook group, even on Twitter. So lots of ways to join us. So Alex, over to you.
Yeah, so we have a question that we ask all of our first-time guests, and that is, what got you into the events industry? And if you weren't in the events industry, what would you be doing? So let's start with Sherrif.
Okay, so what got me into the events industry? I really didn't have any idea that the industry existed. I wanted to be a CMO for a baseball team or a hockey team. And I started out being an operations manager for a soccer team. And the owner of the soccer team actually owned 9 hotels. And the soccer league, it was called the North American Soccer League, back in the 80s, actually folded. And they didn't want me to leave. So they said, would I consider working in the hotel division? And that actually led me to where I am today. It was a journey through the hotel industry and through the CVB that got me into association management and the business events industry. But if I wasn't doing this, there will be a couple of things that I wanted to do. I would certainly be a farmer with a lot of horses and dogs, and definitely a lot of red wine.
So an Italian or Spanish farmer, perfect.
We've heard the red wine before. I don't think we've heard farmer on this show. First.
There's always a first.
Oh.
How about you, Claire?
Oh, I think very similar to Sherrif. It was not by design. It was sort of by accident. I started my career in the industry working for a World's Fair that we were holding in Vancouver. And it had always been my dream as a child to work there, as you sort of heard about it coming. And once I sort of got bitten by that bug of people coming from all around the world to experience my city, but to experience all of these incredible innovations and displays, that really got me started. So it's been a long and really interesting career. If I didn't do this, I think my dream had been to be a nutritionist. So I started at university to be a nutritionist. And when I met with my counselor to kind of talk about that career pathing, in those days, you worked in a hospital, you know, you were a dietitian in a hospital. So a nutritionist didn't do the kind of things that they do today. So I think looking back, that probably would have been a different choice if that field of study had been broader at that time.
Interesting.
Not a farmer, but maybe I would take the farm goods from Sherrif, the healthy farm goods, not the wine and...
I would have sold you organic goods, but can you
Right.
imagine Claire being a nutritionist? Give me a break.
So, I actually owe some of my stuff, the start of my career, to PCMA, because I joined when I was a student about 5 years ago. So to bring that all full circle.
Love it.
But so PCMA holds a special place in my heart, but I want to hear from both of you. Tell us about the association. For those who might be watching who are not members, who haven't been to a PCMA event, you know, what is PCMA and what is your mission?
Well, Sherrif, I'll let you kick off with the mission, and then I can kind of fill in maybe a little bit of sort of my experience with the organization as well.
Do you see what she has just done? She delegated because she's the chairperson for the organization.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But you know, seriously, PCMA's vision in the last few years, in the last 4 years, PCMA got to a point where it was very, very financially stable. And at that time, the leadership of PCMA said it was time to change in order for future sustainability. And they came up with a vision statement, which is supported by the strategic plan of an organization that is driving economic and social transformation through business events. And that was such, to me, a powerful statement of an organization that looks at business events being a catalyst for economic and social progress. It got me really enthused and jazzed up about where this organization was truly going. And from that perspective, PCMA has been transforming its entire being to be able to show how business events and the practitioner in the business events industry and the role that they play is so vital to economic sustainability, to social progress in our society, but also something that's very important that I think that we all play such a major role. But we've so focused on what we do, we don't understand the impact of what we do. And that is, I'm very much a big proponent of people in the business events industry, regardless of what area you choose to play in, that the role you play is so critical. So lifting the awareness of the profession, of the business events professional, to me is so critically important, and to understand that the role that each and everyone plays is having a bigger and broader impact on society. To me, that's profound, and we should build upon it.
And so that's really the sort of high level purpose of the organization. But if you sort of drop down, you know, a little bit lower, like lower level, is really what we care about is the personal success of our members, and then the organizational success. So PCMA is really committed to educating and inspiring our members to be the best that they can be and ultimately make their organization successful. So I think it's, we know that when people come together, incredible things happen. And I love the way that Sherrif sort of articulated that around, you know, we've been focusing on what we do for decades. And now really is that time to kind of focus on why we do it and what are the outcomes of the events that we all touch and we all play an important role in.
So that's great. That's exactly where we are presently. So if we're looking at a vision for the future of the industry, what are those big rocks that we need to start addressing now to really be successful and make that vision happen in the next decade?
Do you want me to start with that, or Claire, are you starting?
I mean, I know you and I have talked a lot about, you know, the fact that I think sometimes we're our own worst enemy, you know, and I think that we may be not as great as an industry in really being able to articulate our value proposition. And so I think that is one really big thing that we need to get much clearer on, to be able to articulate clearly that broad impact of what happens when we host events. And I think that, you know, we might have talked a little bit about sort of economic impact or about the commerce that happens, but what we really need to be speaking about is the transformation of science and medicine. What are the legacies that are happening as a result of meetings? So I think it's really being able to tell our own story and to tell it in a way that resonates with a broader audience. And I know that we've had lots of discussions around how we can do that more effectively.
So, and the way Claire has framed that, which is just perfect, I think there's a few things that needs to happen. One is that we need to engage different stakeholders. We cannot engage the traditional stakeholders. So when you think about communities, are we engaging in universities, research hubs, and researchers? Are we engaging startup companies and incubators in cities and communities? Are we engaging venture capitalists and other stakeholders like economic development arms and DMOs, in addition to the buyers that we traditionally call buyers, whether it be associations or corporations? So are we engaging those people? That's one thing. And then let's move to something else that we absolutely need to do, and that is the mind shift that Claire has been talking about in the transformation, but what I call is a mindset shift of us as practitioners in this industry about what we need to achieve in the role that we're playing. The way I see us is that, and I'm being critical, but for a good reason, and that is I feel that we have a fixed mindset and not a growth mindset. And we've got to transform our mindset for the role that we are playing and the powerful role that we have in broader society. Whether it be, as Claire was touching on, as sciences and medical and so forth, we've got to shift our mindset and understand the impact that we can have. A couple of things that PCMA has been doing, but this is not about PCMA. This is about an industry that is absolutely powerful. And this is an industry that we can make such an impact on broader society of what ails us. And so it's something that PCMA has been on a bandwagon about, and that is to do with inclusiveness. I talked about including other communities, but we have to include people. Inclusiveness, and I use the word inclusion before diverse, because I don't believe you can be diverse unless you're inclusive. And inclusiveness is not just about what skin color you are or what religion you are. It's about ideas and thoughts that you bring to the table to challenge us, because we can all look different, but we are exactly the same. And that's not going to help us grow. That's not going to push the boundaries. And so for PCMA, we are very focused on how we bring an inclusive community that makes us diverse so we can achieve the very things that we're talking about here.
Love it.
You know, one of the things that I think is interesting when you consider that is where we are now. And I just finished doing a study of reports coming out with Eventry on how we use social media in our industry, because we needed a foundation in order to move forward. And, that's what my specialty is. So from your perspective, what is the state of the industry right now? And if we know what that is, then we can kind of move forward from there.
So I'm going to jump in again, Claire, if you don't mind. I actually believe our industry is very inward looking. We try to blame governments for not doing things for us. We try to blame others instead of deciding who we want to be and step up and doing it. So for me, transformation starts from within, not from outside. And the minute that transformation starts from outside, then someone is dictating our future. So that is absolutely, to me, a challenge. And we have got to talk about how we will transform our industry so that we're just not speaking to each other, which we continue to do. We don't engage other audiences. And so it does not allow us to grow, to be recognized for the contribution that we are making in society. Frankly, our industry, if you look at it as a country in a GDP format, is a very, very large industry. And so the power we have can be channeled very purposefully to do great things, not just economically, but some of the things that Claire touched on socially. And I say that our industry today, if it does not wake up, will be irrelevant because someone else will do it for us. We at PCMA are not prepared to make that happen. We are prepared to say that we are going to lead, and we are going to make those moves to show and demonstrate tangibly. And where I think the crux of the matter is, as in terms of transformation and moving us to that next direction, is that we have not taken the step as yet to say that these are the things that we need to transform in order to achieve what we're trying to achieve. We are still doing the same things that we've done. And I'm not talking about experience design and so forth. I'm actually talking about when it comes to event outcomes. For me, experience design at an event today, that should be a staple, a basic. And if you cannot deliver that flawlessly, it's not, of course it's not. And if you cannot deliver that, that to me is a huge challenge, because then we're so focused on the what that we're not focused on why we're doing what we're doing.
I'm feeling a close your eyes moment coming
No,
on.
we haven't closed our eyes, but we could do that at the end.
We were at an event in Singapore, and Sherrif was asked at the very last minute to kind of give his thoughts on the industry to the audience. And so he had the audience close their eyes and imagine the industry 10 years from now. And we still tease him about it because it was that sort of powerful moment where you did a great job of really getting people to change their mindset for that moment. But we love the theatrics behind the way you did it.
He was determined to make me embarrassed.
It's actually really interesting. Yeah, we are on you, Sherrif. It's true. But I feel like you're up for the challenge. So I did an event in Amsterdam in September that was around mindfulness and wellness with another woman there who is actually a mindfulness trainer. And 3 times we had them with us for 2.5 hours, but at three separate times, we had them do a close your eyes mindfulness exercise. And the first one was very awkward. People were like, sort of half people had their eyes closed. And by the third one, though, everyone was like, this was the best thing ever, to actually just take a moment and sit and reflect and think about all the stuff that we've just been through. And I think that, we have all of these really big picture things around state of the industry and where are we going and challenges. And you guys are to be able to step back and just say, where are we going? And I think you're also talking to partners around the globe every day, because you are really, really internationally focused, as well as obviously having this North American base, which I think is fantastic. Because again, we don't have an industry just here, we have it everywhere. So what are some of those, and you've already mentioned quite a few of them, inclusivity and not, owning our own value and those kinds of things, but what are some of the other key challenges that you're seeing that we really collectively face as an industry?
Well, we just came back from Seville, so we were at the European Influencer Summit, and that brought together probably, I think it was about 180 leaders from across Europe. And I think, what really resonated with me is the challenges are pretty universal. So in their communities, they're dealing with the same challenges, is sort of recognition for the value of this industry, and kind of how that's impacting overall tourism, and in some instances challenges around managed growth in some of those cities. I think business model, sort of the need to look at sort of transforming what our business model is, and how really that sort of end user needs to value what their personal outcomes are going to be for attending that event, and how that kind of backs up through the value chain. I think for me, it was really clear that there is so much more synergy than there are regional differences. I mean, Sherrif, what were your sort of takeaways from?
So I had very similar takeaways, but I wanted to nuance this a little bit on a couple of things. And one is that I want to go back 50 years in time, okay?
Are we closing our eyes, or we?
You could.
Okay.
You could close your eyes. But I want to go back 50 years in time, and just imagine this for me, just one moment. 50 years in time, we were in a different manufacturing era of our society, okay? And we knew then we were starting to drift into a digital age, okay? What we did not do at that time is that we did not equip our workforce with the tools, the resources, and the knowledge they needed to transform. So I believe that today, the rise of populism around the world is a reflection of that, because people are being left behind in mass groups, and they have not been able to they were not given the skills. So we are seeing the byproduct, the symptom of what has happened. I say that we're in the same position right now. We're making that next transformation to AI and all those things, and we're not equipping our people, we're not. I will say this, our schools are doing a good job, but the people that need to be equipped are people who are already in the workforce. What I'm excited about, and the role that associations can play, is that they can play a vital role in this transformation, in this educating of the workforce for the adult population, the ones who've already graduated and been out of school. So I see this major role for associations to play there. So that's one huge thing when I came back from Europe and said, wow, what power we have that we can leverage. And I say the word power, but what I actually think, what incredible responsibility that we have is what maybe I want to say, to actually help to retrain workforces. And all associations, it doesn't matter, or corporations, it doesn't matter which field you're in, if you're going to help do that to develop your workforce. Because what I said earlier in this conversation, we have to stop depending on governments and everybody else to do it. We've got to decide that we can do this. That's one thing. The other thing that I took away, Claire, that I actually felt I thought it was really interesting, it was where our population is going.
Yes.
And what is happening in our world today, by 2050, 80% of our population will be urban. And 80% of our population, think about this, 80% of the world's population will be living in approximately 600 cities. And if we are not able to actually make sure that those living in those cities have opportunity for economic prosperity and social well-being, you can just see where the problems that we'll face in our society. So I just think of business events and serving as a catalyst for economic and social progress. I just see how this fits together so nicely that that if we want to be leaders, first of all, we have to be accountable. And if we want to be leaders, then we should then start taking the steps to make our organizations transform so we can deliver this.
So what is PCMA doing, and how are they supporting and providing information to their members and educating them to address some of those challenges?
You want to start, or me, Claire?
I think you should.
All right. I like how she did.
What are you doing, Sherrif?
I'm on a roll. Is that the deal?
Yeah.
So I think a bunch of things. First and foremost, it's always the chicken and the egg, right? Mm-hmm. Are we engaging the right people, and are we providing the right services and products? For too long, PCMA and many associations, and I'm not talking association or industry, I'm talking associations, you name them, medical, financial, whatever they are, what they've done is just provide products, stuff that nobody has really wanted, okay? What piece and needed in order to propel their careers, to actually give them the knowledge and tools that they really need. What PCMA is doing is actually really stepping back and looking at exactly the type of knowledge our people do. So we're not running out to create certifications and certificates and put things out. We're really looking at where business is going and what are the gaps and the skills that are needed to fulfill those roles. And that's the type of education that we're in the process of developing. That's one thing we're doing. Second, we are bringing disparate speakers from disparate fields that are looking at transforming business. And I'm going to say this very, very deliberately. I absolutely almost despise the word disruption, because we talk about disruption like it's a sexy term to talk about, and disruption for disruption's sake is just disruptive. But disruption is happening to us, and unless we get a handle on it and talk about real solutions with real, tangible knowledge for people, they're going to be overwhelmed. And so PCMA is focusing on its products, but it's not focusing on products because I want to deliver something. We are really telling the why. Why should we be doing this? Why should you be doing this? And understanding it. And yes, the product will be there to take you along on the journey. But understanding that you need to be in this place, how it's going to help you benefit your community, benefit your organization, benefit your family.
Yeah, I think it's that role that an association can play in connecting the dots from kind of what's happening in the world, and whether it's the evolution of technology, of business, or of human behavior, and translating that to the practice piece of it. And so really our role is to bring that to life for people, to expose them to things they wouldn't be exposed within their organization on a daily basis. And a lot of people that I talk to are very isolated within their organizations. They may only get educational opportunities that are presented through their company. And I think really what PCMA is able to do is to really challenge people's way of thinking and make them think differently and change that mindset, as Sherrif was talking about.
We're also providing a platform to exactly what Claire says, challenge people, but make them feel safe so that they can challenge themselves. Because this is not about who's to be blamed or whatever, it's so that we can grow. And so the idea of giving people an opportunity to mix amongst other people that are challenging their verticals or wherever they are, and have real discussions and talk about issues that are impacting them, like we just did in Europe. It is very, very powerful. The learning it's almost unbelievable, the learning. And what I'm finding, and maybe Claire, I don't know how you thought of this, but yes, we had powerful speakers, but it was amazing the discussions that were going on and the learning, and saying, you know, this is what's happening with me. I'm a medical society. This is what's happening with me. I'm a technology company. This is what's happening with me. I'm a banking industry. And it's interesting. The challenges are very similar. The industry is completely different. And so it's interesting how they share stories and and help each other. And that learning is very, very powerful. So the concept of PCMA being a platform where we're bringing these communities together, that's another way, Alex, to answer your question, that we are helping. It's not just about hard core education, it's also about how we're bringing disparate minds to solve common day problems.
Well, I think that really goes back to what you were saying about diversity. We need to have diverse opinions, and we were talking a little bit before the show about how much I enjoyed being at an event that wasn't only just event planners, but was so many other frames of reference. And I think that is really critical. So we want to just remind people that they can actually, throw some questions at you guys. So lots of platforms for doing that. And we will definitely send those on. So now, obviously, everybody's moving urban. So we know that. So this is now the perfect time, Sherrif, for you to go and get that farm going. So that's great. So what are we now seeing globally as growth areas for the industry? We talk about disruption, but what are going to be the things that are going to help us leverage and continue to grow the value of events into the future from your perspective?
Claire, you want to start?
No, it's Tahira, I'm sort of reflecting back on what you were talking about and your experience at was it the university for?
The College of Extraordinary Experiences. Yeah.
And that, that bringing diverse perspectives and different points of view, but breaking down the process of what an experience is, that to me is a very powerful opportunity. And I think that transcends borders. That is not, that is a universal kind of challenge that we're all facing. And so I think globally, there is huge power in sort of sharing innovation where innovation is living, and kind of having that transcend borders. It's exciting to me to see communities, and I say communities, but sort of regions of the world that are leading in such incredible ways. And what we need to do is start listening, watching, and emulating where those pockets of innovation are. I had the opportunity of spending some time, like you did, Tahira, in Australia, and I really am so in awe of where they're taking so many of these conversations that we've been having. I think they are doing some really, really remarkable things. And so to be able to cross-pollinate and share those successes, those opportunities in a very safe environment, and we can apply them to our own regional context, because we all have regional contexts that we're dealing with. I think it's incredibly powerful to hear Melbourne announce this week their initiative around addressing the homelessness issue, and something that so many cities around the world are challenged with, that social piece of it. How do we leverage all the gifts and all of the wealth of our industry and actually help make society better as part of an outcome of what we're doing? To me, is a really exciting proposition. So I think we need to not think that the way we do things is the right way, and really have that open mind and open our eyes and start connecting with other parts of the world to understand how they're addressing some of the challenges that are way more similar than diverse.
So I'm going to add some things to what Claire had to say, and I would just say that I believe us as globally, we're blinded by success. We're not a society that's comfortable with failure. And the reality is that most of the times, in my estimation, the one success we've seen, we've had 2,000 failures to create the one success. And we don't celebrate the effort and understand how we're building in order to be successful. So regardless of an issue, a problem, a challenge that we have, whether it be homelessness or other things, we only celebrate when something is successful. We're not celebrating effort. So with that and those big challenges that Claire talked about, like homelessness, there is something for me is that let's stop treating the symptoms of problems and realizing homelessness is not the challenge. The challenge is other things that are causing homelessness, and homelessness is a symptom of much deep-rooted problems, and we need to deal with those deep-rooted problems, which again, our business events industry, bringing people together, can help solve. The second thing I think, and this is something that we're not good at, not realizing that small steps is what makes big impacts. And we think we have to conquer the world in one go, and none of us can do that, right? So why aren't we getting small wins, celebrating our small wins and building upon it? But we've got this. Let's look at Apple, for example. The iPod, which Alex, I don't even know if you know what an iPod is, but my generation, I know what an iPod is.
Not that young.
Do you know what an iPod is?
Yeah, I had the first iPod.
Okay, you heard of it. I mean, seriously, I mean, you may not, but I think they're still around. But the reality is that Apple started with iPod, and today it's then the iPad, and now it's the iPhone 10th generation, and you know where that has taken the world. But they didn't start and have that long-term vision. They build upon it. And we can think of the North Star, but we've got to start somewhere. And PCMA is looking, because we were challenged by William Gallas from Europe to say, why don't you do a hackathon to solve the homelessness problem at Convening Leaders? So as in terms of a social impact, we are looking at doing a hackathon at Convening Leaders to solve homelessness. Now, we know that we are going to then take that and share it with governments, share it in social media, and share it in a whole bunch of places where hopefully communities and cities can adapt some of the or adopt some of the outcomes of that. But we've got to get away from this mindset that people fail, instead of understanding that people, every day that they're trying and every day they try, we grow and learn a bit more. And if we tell people that they failed, then we are never advancing our cause or society or what we're working on. And that mindset shift has not happened as yet. And frankly, I actually find in certain parts of the world, it's greater. And
but Sharon, don't you think though that our industry is based on, like, success is based on operational excellence? Like, you know, no failure, no operational failure in an event realm is what everybody is striving for. And so that then drives the behavior of, if it's not perfect, you know, it's not success.
But that's because we set it up that way.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we set it up that way. And I think that there's something that's like someone said, I went to an event and I didn't learn a single thing. Or overall, the event wasn't satisfactory. And I'm thinking, good Lord. You know, it's like, if I go to any event, I don't care what it is, I'm going to meet someone that is going to benefit me. I'm going to learn one tidbit, even if it's a tiny thing. I always go there with a mindset that I'm here to advance myself. But what happens is we go with a very closed mindset, a very fixed mindset. So we're not open to recognizing what will make us learn. We think we need to go to, you know, the Harvards of the business events industry in order to learn and advance ourselves, instead of going to a mindset saying, what am I bringing to this event? How am I contributing to the success? So that allows, the reality is that outside of the formal business events industry, nobody does the things that we do. And if actually, if you talk about business models, if people actually, participants had to pay for what a PCMA or the other industry organizations put on as an event, it will be $5,000 for 3 days because all your meals, all this, that, and a very, very top level education. So I think that there's got to be a level set of expectations, and not expectations just on the organizations, that's the organizers, but expectations in the participant of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also about, can we please get over, you read your evaluations at the end and, it's like, there wasn't enough coffee. Oh, I didn't like the lunch. Oh, and those are not the important things. Like, why are we even measuring that? Because at the end of the day, I want to know, how many good conversations did you have? Not how many business cards did you get? How many useful conversations did you have? So there's all of these things that are happening sort of as we look forward to, like, how can we do things differently? So let's talk about what's happening, what's getting you actually excited about our industry.
Well, I think Sherrif's the one that is right now the most excited person that I have ever had the opportunity to listen to. I mean, I think your passion around the opportunity is huge. And I think we're really on the sort of cusp of understanding that power of the work that we do collectively in the industry.
So I'm going to just piggyback onto Claire's comment, because that's exactly the launch pad. The fact is that I almost do not even want to go home, how excited I am about the fact of the power of what people coming together have, and what business events as a platform can do for communities, small and large, can do for organizations, small and large, and can do for us. It has so much lethal potential. I will tell you, we have an opportunity to transform the world. People think that's lofty. I say that's silliness if you think it's lofty. I say that we are all powerful, and no one should diminish any one of us on the role that we play in broader society. And the business events industry, bringing together so many people in disparate fields, in so many verticals, think of that power to solve not just economic woes, but social problems, to solve issues that are the disadvantaged. That to me is what's making me exciting, but recognizing what we've always been doing and not speaking in the language, and then start really connecting the dots with economic development, with social organizations, with researchers, so that we are saying, wow, this is how you can amplify that and make it happen. Think of the breakthroughs, think of the not just economic breakthroughs and jobs, but the social well-being of our citizens. All citizens should have social equity. All citizens should have a wage and a living. And this is not socialism. And I am very passionate about the fact that a rising tide should lift all boats, and we must ensure that. And if you want to be a leader, you should ensure that.
So, I think it's interesting, and we talked a bit about how we as an industry are trained to think a certain way. But I think that also goes back to how we educate the young people in our industry too. I got a master's degree in event and meeting management, which is rare. But I have probably learned more through my membership and my being active in industry associations like PCMA. I was one of PCMA's 20 in their 20s. And that's a great program that PCMA does to celebrate, young talent in our industry. But what are we doing as an industry to create industry-ready talent that will adopt these new ideas moving forward? Because I think we have to think about the future and not getting them stuck in the same things that we've been doing forever, and how do we get them ready for that?
Well, and it's interesting, Alex, that you talk about people sort of entering the workforce. I think where we're doing a bad job is even before that, the people recruiting people to even come into the university programs, because we have some incredible universities globally that are doing so much great work in this field with incredible faculty that are so passionate about this industry. And if I could go back and do anything, I would love to have had the opportunity to have had that foundation of education to sort of set us forward in the industry. But I don't think we're doing a good job before that, because I think that is there real clarity around what does a career path look like as a business events professional versus, a digital designer that's going to look at, developing video games or some sort of, work in the visual arts. I think it's really hard for someone to envision what the diversity and the potential of this career is. So I think that's a really big challenge. I think that our universities are doing an incredible job, and I think it's our role as industry associations to create those platforms to connect, because I feel that when we bring people together, and the times that we've been able to spend with the 20s and your 20s is only one segment, but the excitement of cross-sharing different perspectives is so critical. And then I think it's really up to us in our organizations to create really meaningful job development and career opportunities, because the traditional mindset of how people progress in a career is no longer the reality. But many of us are vested to that, and we're sort of stuck there. And most of us are much more senior in our career, and we're stuck. We don't understand kind of the opportunity of that fluid building of skills throughout a career, and maybe not a progression in a traditional way. So I think that there are sort of challenges really on the front end, and then there are real challenges within our organizations. And we need to be much more mindful about how we attract young people into our organizations and how we keep work meaningful for them and allow them to continue to grow, and not have the expectations of what it was like for me, in the 1990s to progress sequentially through levels and jobs, because that just doesn't exist in the same way. I am interviewing right now for a role, and I can't tell you how excited I have been coming out of those interviews at the passion and the talent and the completely different outlook on our industry from the people that I've interviewed. So I am so excited about young people and the power of them in our industry. But I think we've got to get out of the way and create a very different workplace so that they can flourish. And ultimately replace us, but they're going to replace us in a different way. It's not going to be the job that I hold today. It's not going to be the job that will replace me.
Well, I've only been in the job for 9 months, so hopefully they don't replace me tomorrow.
I think you're good for now.
But I do want to piggyback on Claire's comments very quickly, and that is that I do think that when I was growing up, and maybe not you, Alex, but when I was growing up, the colleges and universities, the program that was geared towards this industry was more on the hospitality side. And, today associations and so forth are hiring. PCMA hired its first business intelligence analyst this year. Today we are hiring brand builders, engagement architects, and design architects. So the curriculum is not, we were so focused on, as Tahir said earlier, the coffee cups and so forth, But today, in order to grow your businesses and engage and grow your science, and depending on the field, the skill set is very, very different. And it really talks to what Claire is talking about, and the talent that we're recruiting for today in order to grow our organizations is very, very different. So I'm very actually optimistic. I don't think it's changing as fast as we would like. I don't think any university today really still knows and understands how associations and corporations use business events to grow their businesses.
Well, and I think that's, sorry, Alex.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say, I think that, when, you guys all know that I wrote a book, but when I did that, it was, and when I started to look at what careers there were, I started actually with the business event strategist, from the PCMA thinking as sort of, that's the, here's our, one person who's sort of like, let's call it the top of the food chain, dealing with your clients, figuring out, they might be internal at a corporation or association, it might be an agency, but really that idea that you have a business event strategist. And then once we just take out all of those roles we're used to, registration, housing, all of those things that are the core of our event logistics, there's like 29 other roles that I came up with that are not even things you can, we're not even good at explaining to a client why you need all of those things you just mentioned, engagement and design architects. And, having just spent some time at the College of Extraordinary Experiences, there was a number of people, from Salzburg, from Texas A&M, from all around the world, these, professors of experience design who are focused on how do we create better experiences, not just with events, but in a whole other category of things. But, the events industry, we don't even know that those people exist. Like a PhD in experience design, but it's out there. And, there's all this deeper understanding. Then we get into the whole digital side, and how do you have those, marry those things together. And it's just so mind-boggling because the world around us has changed much more rapidly than we have. And so it is great that you guys are filling in some of those blanks and those steps.
I think I have to agree, Claire, also that it is not just the education that we offer in our universities, but really recruiting the right talent. Mm-hmm. I would say that half the people in my master's program were there so that they could go home and plan weddings. And there's nothing against being a wedding planner, but there were very few people who really thought about events from a business perspective. And my program was in the business school at George Washington University. And it was like pulling teeth trying to get my peers to understand the impact and that we have as a business, and getting them to go to events like PCMA events and local MPI events and things like that. I'd be the only student who'd show up, and I'm just like, what? Do you guys not want a career in this industry? And I think it does go back to finding the right talent, because I think the right talent's out there. I don't think they know that there's a job in our industry.
Right. And I think what Sherrif was sort of alluding to is that integration into kind of business school curriculum, that events are a channel and a critical channel for business success or organizational success. And so we talk about, other mediums in general business school, and events are kind of touched upon, but I think it's really kind of sparking that inspiration that there is actually a very meaningful area of study, and ultimately a very rich and rewarding career by focusing on that platform. And I think we need to take a lesson from Tahira, who embedded her children into the events that she ran from an early age, to kind of expose them to the power and the magic and the wonderful experiences that sort of resonate from that.
It wasn't child labor?
No. It was child volunteer labor.
It was volunteer.
They worked for tips. They were happy.
Yeah.
Don't judge.
And everybody loved Tahira's children, although they're not children anymore, but we love them.
I now have adults. It's all good. So now I know we're getting close to the end of the hour. It's shocking. So there's a couple of things we still want to touch on for sure. So talk to us about PCMA, how you're growing forward, how people can get involved, how things are changing in memberships. What's going on?
Well, the membership is growing and it's growing rapidly. And PCMA has never been just based on membership. It's been based just on an audience. You can become a member or not a member, but we obviously would like you to become a member. Member has been growing. We would love to have you join as a member. We want to make sure we understand what's going to be of value to you so that we can provide value. But it's a community that's there to support you and help you grow. So we want you as a member. You can also be involved in PCMA in a number of ways. There's many volunteer roles. There is also, you can actually just participate in our events, participate in the PCMA online communities, Convene Magazine, the social media element of PCMA. And we're doing events, face-to-face webinars and so forth, but face-to-face events, we're doing it in all 3 regions of the world that PCMA is focusing on, which is Asia Pacific, the EMEA region, primarily Europe, of course, and then the Americas. In North America is the heavy, of course, our home is the US, and of course we've got 2 chapters in Canada and 1 in Mexico. But we are focused, we're heavily focused in North America and it's home. So there is engagement. We have also been doing what we call knowledge exchanges, which are grassroots, small interaction from 30 to 50 people across the world. We've been doing them in Asia and in Europe, and that is really good at connecting local business event strategists in those communities, talking about issues that are impacting them locally.
Well, and if you ask Janet Spurstad, who of course is one of our brain experts in this industry, she will tell you that 35 people is exactly the right amount of people to have at a party to get good information and to really connect with people. So 30 to 50 is awesome. Sorry, Claire.
No, I was just going to say that I think one of the most meaningful ways to get involved in PCMA is about attending convening leaders. And I think that there is nothing more exciting than kicking off your year and sort of setting the tone for your own professional development by being in Pittsburgh, January 6 to 9. I think that's where not only are we inspired by incredible speakers from a diverse perspectives, but I think it's where we have really interesting, meaningful conversations and we challenge each other's thinking. And to me, there is no better way to start your year by challenging yourself to think differently and to experience different perspectives on the industry and different ideas, and then figure out how to make that your own.
I love that.
To you, Alex, there's no reason you shouldn't be there, and we'll try and figure out how we get you there.
I love it. Now, you're at IMEX next week, so obviously IMEX show. So what can people expect to see from PCMA next week at IMEX?
So many things. First and foremost, on Monday, we certainly participate in IMEX's education. We're running the business school in the afternoon, Monday afternoon. Starts, I believe, at 4:30 at IMEX, and then we're doing a joint session with PCMA and IAPCO, and that is IAPCO is a great partner of PCMA, as is Destination International. So we are doing various programs with them. We are partnering. We will be doing a reception in the PCMA stand with Pittsburgh on Wednesday, promoting convening leaders, and we are just looking forward to seeing as many of our members, many of the participants at IMEX, and engage in rich dialogue to continue to benefit our industry.
Fantastic.
So it's coming down to the last couple minutes, and there are 2 questions that we ask all of our guests at the end of each show. And the first one is, if you could only pick one, what is your one tip you have for event planners?
Well, that is a loaded question. One tip, I would say evolve. Evolve. Don't get stuck. Don't don't perfect your craft and think that's it, that you need to evolve as the world that your organization's evolving, that society's evolve.
And maybe I'll jump off of Claire's point. My one tip would be to start getting to understand insights from data so that we're making better decisions. So just figuring out how you can get your arms around. You almost stop collecting as much data you used to collecting, focus on collecting the data that's going to help you and be able to capture the insights from that.
Great. So our last question is, do you have any new and cool resources you want to share? I know we've touched on a couple. And this could be websites, blogs, books, gadgets. Does not have to be events related. Any resources that you think our viewers could utilize?
For me, what I'm enjoying right now is I am a very active Flipboard user because I love different industry, like reading different sources. So I love Convene magazine and I'm an avid reader, but I like to pepper that with business media, with sort of culture and health related. So I am creating my own media that is customized to me by drawing on thousands of sources. And I am just finding that so stimulating because I am not just living within my own realm.
Claire, thank you for the nice plug on Convene. So thank you for that. But what from my thing, I say that we need to change mindsets in our industry, and thus I'm recommending everyone to read the book Mindsets by Carol Dweck, specifically that author, Carol Dweck, and I think it's a fascinating read. And it's something that we need to do in this industry if we are going to transform ourselves in the industry.
Excellent. And we will be putting those resources in the transcription of the episode. So if you're watching and you weren't taking notes, you can find that at event-icons.com. Next Tuesday, you can also watch a replay. We record live each Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can watch behind the scenes when we go live a couple minutes early on Facebook Live. We release on iTunes, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, wherever your favorite podcast app is. And of course, event-icons.com with show notes, links to the resources shared. But the best way to join us live is to sign up at event-icons.com and watch us right here. And we have a little teaser coming up that in the future, we'll let you know when this kicks in. We're working with the Events Industry Council so that if you watch the episode live, you will get CEU credits. So that's very exciting. And next week, we'll be live from IMEX. So we're very excited about that. Once again, at 5 p.m. Thank you, Sherrif. Thank you, Claire, for joining us. And thank you for everyone watching. I know we got some comments from Facebook, from Megan Powers and Elizabeth Glau, and Dana also commented as well. So thank you if you were watching live. And that's it for this week's Event-Icons.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful and helpful.
Can't wait to see you both next week.
I know.
Yes, safe travels.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #EventIcons. To catch the transcription and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway.
And join the social conversation. Sponsored by Little Bird Told Media.
Just tag your post with hashtag EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on hashtag EventIcons.